Welcome everyone to the fourth of our four-part live webinar series, Mindfulness Practice for the Legal Community During COVID-19 from the University of Miami School of Law. I have the honor of serving as its dean, and I am here to welcome you to this final of the four workshops. My wonderful colleague, Professor Scott Rogers, has been doing a truly spectacular job of leading these for us, and we have been receiving messages of thanks from all over the country over the last 3 weeks. And so it really has been an honor and a delight to offer these to you, and we expect to be offering additional resources of this kind in the weeks and months to come. So that we could all get through this together and in a way that promotes peace and wellness. And so without further ado, I will pass the virtual podium along to my colleague Scott, but we'll leave you with just a reminder that these workshops have been interactive. And so if you have questions or comments, please post them to the Q&A below, and I will monitor the Q&A box, and then at the end of the workshop, come back and share questions and comments with Scott. So enjoy the workshop, everybody. Scott, please take it away.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you for hosting these over these last 3 weeks and now today. There's a lot going on. And also, thank you for having the idea, the thought to offer these in the first place. I feel a great deal of gratitude too for that. I know that members of the Miami law community do as well, as do many members of the legal profession. So thank you. And welcome, everyone. It's good to be together. It's good to be together. And today we'll be putting together what we've explored over the course of these last several sessions, and then adding to that with a new practice and a new form of practice that hopefully will further enliven your understanding of mindfulness and what this thing is and what these practices are, because it's fundamentally inherent in who we are as human beings, and there are elusive aspects to it. We hope that we have been effective, good enough at sharing with you a bit about mindfulness and some insights around mindfulness. Hopefully those have been sort of light bulbing at times in your own experience, and some of the subtleties of mindfulness. So whether you're new to it or whether you've been practicing and you've been read up on it for a long time, that it can be meaningful and useful in that way. Also, the sharing of mindfulness practices and choosing practices that we think were especially relevant and useful at this time, because there are many to share, and also some of the science and the reasons why these practices can be beneficial, and then tips for integrating them into our lives personally and professionally. And we will sort of come around to those so that there can be takeaway reminders of these very pieces of what we've been wanting to share with you. Last night, as I was thinking about today and what to talk about, I was reminded of something that a Tibetan meditation master named Shabkar once said. He said that the mind's nature is vivid like a flawless crystal, naturally radiant, intrinsically empty, ceaselessly responsive. And in many ways, this mindfulness practice, this being more aware, more present, more engaged, whatever words we want to put to it, are pointing us in this direction of naturally radiant. And we know when we're with somebody who has that radiance about them. And we know perhaps we have, but perhaps we know it, when we too have that radiance about us. It's an effortless light that just engages. And it's satisfying and it's meaningful. And we know what it is at times to have this intrinsic emptiness. And what that suggests is it's not all about me. There's something bigger. There's a purpose to why I'm here and what I'm doing. And that inspires us again and again. and helps us connect with each other even more fully. And then ceaselessly responsive, like where is the call? Where is the need? Where is the suffering? Where can I be of service? How can I be helpful? Which sometimes applies to ourselves. And to be ceaselessly responsive. Of course, these are all sort of pointers way out there, but it's a gradient, and we are on this gradient, and we can move along this gradient. And so much of what we're exploring is just that. And as members of the legal profession, you know what it's like when you are with somebody who's offering that in terms of their guidance and their counsel and their interest and their enjoyment of doing what they're doing, as hard as the work might be. And we know what that's like to offer up ourselves. And I can't help, because what Dean Verona thought to bring us all together at a time that's so important is this COVID-19 that we are all grappling with in different ways. To the ways in which the healthcare professionals and first responders and many others are, even as we're sitting here being together to explore mindfulness, are ceaselessly responsive and aware of and interested in, even without trying, the larger aspect of why they're doing what they're doing to be helpful to others. And so as we, in a moment, do our opening practice, perhaps we can, if we'd like, hold a heart that can feel the sadness of the families and of those who have, and friends who have lost their lives, have hope, a hopefulness and openness to the prospects of recovery for those who are struggling for their lives, and to have a sense of relief and joy for those who have survived. Sadness, hope, relief, joy. We swim in the current of these feelings and these states as part of being a human being. So let us bring ourselves into a posture that's upright and stable. As we lower or close our eyes, whichever you prefer, resting attention on the sensations of this body in this moment, breathing. Aware of where we're making contact with the cushion or the chair beneath us, behind us, of the sensations of our hands, one in the other, or on our lap or by our side, of our feet making contact with the ground as we breathe. Aware of this body not just sitting, but moving with the breath, the torso expanding, the rib cage lifting on the in-breath, softening on the out-breath. As we take 3 slower, deeper breaths, which can be helpful for achieving a slightly more relaxed state and steadying us. So we breathe in and out. A fuller, deeper in-breath, but comfortable. A slower, steadier, fuller out-breath. Breathing in and out. And then for the next few moments of this practice, attending to the sensations of the breath, however they're flowing, being here for this moment as it is. And should your mind wander and you realize it, to gently remember this breath that patiently awaits your return. aware of this breath, moving through this body. And when you're ready, in the next moment or two, with an awareness of doing so, lifting the gaze, opening the eyes. Alrighty. In about 5 minutes, we'll turn to today's practice, which will be a mindful movement practice, a variation on the theme. I'll be sharing with you a practice and a methodology that I developed known as the So Be Mindful method, which draws upon the elements of nature to awaken us to our own true nature. And I think you'll find it to be reinforcing so much of what we have been practicing and much of what you may know of practice, and be useful, and also be a practice that involves movement, because much of what we've done has been sitting, but one need not sit to be mindfully aware. In fact, mindful awareness is here for every moment of our life, and we're going to be standing and moving and sleeping and talking and running and scurrying about. And so mindfully aware. And so this is a practice that enlarges perhaps our understanding of mindfulness and also gives us another way of practicing. Before we do, just a brief recap on the 3 practices that we've explored. Focused attention. We focus attention on an object like the breath. When we realize that our mind has wandered, we gently return to the breath. Focused attention practice. It's nice to do that for 10 or 15 minutes a day. The short practice that can be done in just a few moments, and it's especially effective if we've been practicing the focused attention practice on a regular basis, known as stop. What do we do when we stop? S, we stop. We might be sitting, we might be standing. T, we take a breath, as we may right now, aware of the breath we're taking. That's the piece here, the awareness. Breathing in, breathing out. We observe, oh, what's taking place around us? Sometimes that's where the action is. What's taking place within us, that's what we're learning, is where more often than we not, and more often than we realize, that's where the action is. And then after a few moments, a few breaths proceeding, stop. And as Sharon Salzberg reminds us, and as I shared in our very first session together, mindfulness is being able to tell the difference between what's taking place and the story we're telling ourselves about what's taking place. And so here in this practice, we're noticing the story that we're telling ourselves, and we're coming back to a steadier place. The second practice, the body scan, attending to the sensations of the body. And we realize at moments that their sensations are pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. We notice that as we begin in one part of the body and then notice, observe, and then move to another part of the body. And through this practice, among other things, we cultivate a greater equanimity, a capacity to be present and to stay in moments that are unpleasant, where our tendency is to almost, without even being aware of it, in fact, without even being aware of it, to just move off to something else because it's unpleasant. And the practice that was shared in relationship to this, the shorter practice, was one that Pema Chodron shared with Judge Chris McLilly, who shared with the students in the class last week, called Drop the Story, Feel the Energy. So we become aware of the story, and it's energizing us in ways that can mobilize us to yell or scream or make decisions that aren't so useful. We drop the story, we feel the energy. She says on the out breath, as we exhale, we drop the story. And on the in breath, we feel the energy. Drop, feel. But to do that, we have to be aware of the story. And so we see how this is related in some ways to the focused attention practice. They're not so different. And then the loving kindness practice, to recite phrases like, may you be happy, may I be happy, may you be safe, may we all be safe. To establish to cultivate a more open-hearted relationship to ourselves and each other. And the possibilities and the moments are endless to be able to, because you see somebody who you know, who you love, who you know, who you like, who you know, who you dislike, who you don't even know, and to wish for them, may you be happy, may you be safe. And so these are each their own crystals, if you will. They're beautiful. We polish them as we practice, and they help establish in us even more fully these qualities that we find so important for our own well-being, that of others, and to help this world. Now we're going to move to today's practice. I'm going to just explain for a few moments the setup, but on the resources page, you can watch videos and you can read more about it. And then in a moment, I'm going to stand and create a little more distance so that between me and this camera so that you can see a little bit more of me. And I encourage you, if you're able to stand. If you've got people in your midst, call them over to have them do this with you. And if you can't, if you're sitting and it's more comfortable to sit, or you're having difficulty standing, then that's fine. This doesn't require that you stand. The Soapy Mindful method draws upon the elements of nature to wake us up to our true nature. And these elements have been chosen because they're everywhere we go, pretty much anywhere in the world. If you're outside, it's a beautiful place to practice where you can look outside. And here's the elements that we'll draw upon. There's 6 primary elements, and here's what they represent, although you probably could figure this out on the way. The tree represents the body, stable, steady, strong, alive, growing. The wind represents the breath, flowing. Clouds, thoughts and feelings, the activity of the mind, coming and going, arising and passing away. This is their true nature. This is the true nature of ourselves. The sun has a dual role. The spreading of warmth, our own kindness, so you'll see the loving kindness practice in here, and awareness. There's the bird, which is listening. Listening is its own mindfulness practice. In fact, we can always be listening to what's going on around us and to ourselves. In fact, that is many mindfulness practices. And then we close with the butterfly. So I'm going to stand, and if you would stand so we can find a place to comfortably engage in these movements. I'll share these movements with you. There may be 1 or 2 that involve the clouds. Don't worry, you can't get it wrong. You can only think you do, and that's just a cloud coming and going. And you'll see for each of these elements that we'll flow through, after which we'll sit down. And I believe we'll have time for a very short practice that could be a longer practice known as RAIN, that many are finding useful. And yesterday I listened to a wonderful dear colleague of mine, Judy Cohen, share it. And she did a little bit of a shift at the end with the letter N, which I thought was very useful. And I'm going to do it in the way that she's inspired me. So we'll be sitting and then finishing with a closing practice of a sitting practice. So each of these elements have 3 forms that they take, and I'll guide you through them. All righty. We stand or sit tall like the tree. We feel our feet rooted. This is a mindfulness practice because we are aware of the sensations of our feet. Think body scan. Aware of the sensations of the body. We are aware of our posture. And then the second form is the arms slowly come up to our sides, like the branches of a tree. And this allows us to have a little stretch. We can spend so much time sitting. The body lives to move and breathe. And at the end of our fingers, hands, are our arms are our fingers. And of course, these are the leaves on the branches of the tree. And so we wiggle deliberately, intentionally. Mindfulness practices are intentional practices. Then we come up. Be good to your neck, be good to your shoulders, especially if you're sitting. And we now have this open and receptive stance, moving and inhabiting the 3-dimensional space, which is ours, that we often don't take full advantage of. And so you feel the stretch, you feel your body moving like trees swaying in the breeze. In fact, if we could see all of us here now, we're like a forest. And aren't we all? The arms slowly come down as we move from the tree to the wind. And the arms expand out as we inhale, breathing in a slower, deeper in-breath. And then the arms come back as we squeeze out the air, the longer, fuller out-breath. Again, we do this 3 times. And inhaling, and then in and exhaling. The 3rd time. And be aware of the sensations as we do this. It's relaxing because we're breathing slower, deeper. And we're also bringing in awareness to the movements, to the sensations. Then, and don't worry, you can't get this wrong, the arms come up and they rest just in front of us like clouds. In the Taoist tradition, this is known as cloud hands. They move gently across the horizon of our own visual field. We observe them, We get to the end and then they switch. However you might do that, don't worry, you can't do this wrong, because it's the awareness you're bringing to the movement of the body. You get to the end, one more time, we do it again. These represent thoughts and feelings. Whatever thought you had a moment ago, it is gone. Whatever you were feeling earlier today, it is likely gone. They may come back. This is a reminder that this too shall pass. Clouds form, clouds dissolve. Then the arms come down in front of us and we lift them up, the sun, the spreading of warmth. And as the arms come up to the top and then come down, we're aware of the sensations as we wish for somebody, perhaps somebody who's struggling or suffering. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. Whatever kindness you wish to offer from yourself, the cultivation of this open-heartedness. The arms come up, retracing the path they took, and we're shining the warmth of our own kindness on ourselves. May I be happy. May I be safe, free from worry. And then the third form of this practice with the sun, the arms come up, and this is a slower movement. We are attending. This is a mindfulness practice, and it's an engaged mindfulness practice, and we wish may all beings everywhere be safe. People everywhere, pets, animals, be happy, be healthy, be free from worry. And then the bird. And if you can, close your eyes. It can be nice to close your eyes for part of this. We gently flap our arms, very slowly, very gently, like a bird up high, big picture, and we listen to sounds. We perch, we land, and here we are aware. We didn't do a practice called open monitoring. There's no object of attention. We're just aware. And now that the sun is out, the tree, the wind, the clouds, the sun, we're aware. Nothing to do. Allowing this moment to be as it is, like the tree, witnessing, but grounded, feeling the trembling earth. Not removed, but steadier. And then we close with the last, as we cross our arms like this a little bit, and the last element is the butterfly. The butterfly represents gratitude, symbolizes gratitude, and so there's a gentle flapping of our hands. Remember, if you're aware of the movement as you're doing it, your attention is here, less likely to be somewhere else. And to bring to mind someone or something for whom you feel or for which you feel grateful, to offer an expression of thanks. And then the arms stay where they are for a moment, and we look, and these are the eyes of the tiger. Fierce, courageous. That's what this world calls for. And then they part as the arms slowly come down, and we close this practice, returning to mountain. We never left. We didn't climb anywhere. We've always here. But perhaps through practices like these, we're a little bit more aware. And then we take our seat slowly, carefully, gently. And I will, in the next 2 or so minutes, have us close the practice portion with the practice called RAIN. And you can find it many places, and many people are finding it very helpful, which is why we want to share it with you. And so now sitting, we're aware of the sensations of our body. We're aware of this breath. We lower or close our eyes. And the first letter of RAIN stands for recognize. So whatever it is that you might be feeling in this moment, it may be pleasant and affirming, it might be challenging and difficult, to bring awareness to it by recognizing it and naming it. This already brings us a little bit more fully to the present moment. And now that we have named it, or at least having a sense of it, we allow. That is to say, it's here. Let's welcome this moment with whatever it brings. This is the equanimity, the resilience we've spoken of. Not easy. But if we want to now investigate, it's helpful to be steady and to be able to observe. And so now we investigate our experience. This is what the body scan is inviting us to do. If you're aware of anger or sadness, you probably investigate and notice tension in the shoulders, sadness, ache in the heart. Whatever it is, we observe. We investigate, not trying to figure out as much as being here for ourselves. And then we close with N, which can mean, and has been used in different ways, but what I found so compelling was not alone. A reminder. You can put your hand on your heart if you'd like. That's a little self-compassion practice that researchers finds is helpful, but not alone. We remind ourselves, we remember, whatever it is that we're experiencing, we're not alone. And indeed, we're not alone. When you're ready in the next moment or two, with an awareness of doing so, and with an awareness of this body sitting like a tree, this breath flowing through this body like the wind, thoughts and feelings coming and going, clouds, and the sun of our own true nature of kindness and capacity to be aware. So lift the gaze, open the eyes, and perhaps as a short form of the practice, the So Be Mindful, when you're outside or looking outside and you feel the breeze, or you notice the sun, or you see a tree, you adjust the posture. You take a slower, deeper breath. Whatever it is that it cues because of what it symbolizes, how wonderful to be reminded by nothing more extraordinary than life.
What a beautiful practice, Scott. Thank you so much. In the Q&As, we have a couple of comments. One from Ruthann Robbins. Thank you, Ruthann, saying, thank you so much. Please offer more. So we will certainly consider that, Ruthann. Stacy Edelman posted, thanks for promoting these webinars. They have been tremendously useful. I have been more mindful about using the techniques Scott has been discussing every day when I find myself getting distressed by the many stresses occurring during this time. Stacy also asks how we can access the recordings after the program is over. Stacy, on the Miami Law website, we have all of the archived video there. I also, and Scott will be posting to his social media, I will be posting to my social media the link to that page with all of the archived video. It's probably going to take us a day or so. I am on Twitter at Tony Varona, TonyVarona, so it will be there. On Facebook, I'm at Tony Varona also, and I'm also on Instagram, Tony_Varona. The links will be posted to all three, and Scott will also be posting. Scott, what is your social media?
There's Miami Law Mindful, there's scottrogers.com, and we'll put that up on the web page. And of course, there's always reaching out with an email with any questions that you have. We very much enjoy, and I very much enjoy engaging in those conversations of resources and things to deepen our understanding and practice of mindfulness.
And here are some more questions. Amber, or comments. Amber Jones says, I'm so grateful and thankful for these. Every technique has been immensely helpful. How do you keep your mind clear during this time? Scott, so that's one question. Sue Deming says, thank you. I have truly enjoyed these sessions and will continue to use them. May God bless everyone. Thank you, Sue. Lucia Gradinario, do you have a special practice, Scott, for students with disabilities?
Okay.
So mind clear and students with disabilities.
Thank you. So mind clear. Well, first, if the sky were filled with clouds that were a little bit ominous, foreboding, and we wish they weren't there, and you wanted to clear the sky of those clouds, lots of luck. And if you want to clear your mind, lots of luck. In many ways, the effort for clearing is like taking some water that's choppy, a pool of water, and trying to smooth it out, right? It only makes it choppier. But the inclination to want to feel better, to feel more at ease is ripe. So the mindfulness practice would say, be aware, drop into the body, drop the story, feel the energy. This is not easy. It's easier to do other things to get some momentary relief. And sometimes that is the thing to do, to be good to ourselves. This isn't a practice of self-flagellation and making things difficult, but it is a practice of moving to the edge of when things are uncomfortable and then notice, wow, those thoughts, these feelings and sensations. Can I be here for it? Even if it's just for a few more breaths before I then get up. So the clearing of the mind is an interesting proposition. Being aware of the desire to clear the mind is perhaps the insight, because it's that desire for the mind to be clear that's the pinpoint, the touchstone of our resistance. And as for people with disabilities, it really depends a lot on the nature of the disability. I will say that the So Be Mindful practice, and I'm happy to share variations, and I'll even put up on the website an animation, because it can be shared with younger children, it can be shared with people in a way that's moving and aware and age appropriate and somewhat sensitive to our physical and mental sort of emotional landscape. And so there's lots of answers to questions. I'm happy to follow up, but it really depends on what you mean by those disabilities.
Mm-hmm. And finally, a few other comments. Rosie Losada writes, thank you from Rosie Losada at FIU. She's a colleague from FIU. Just up the road. Lawyers and the people they serve greatly benefit from these practices. Thank you, Rosie. Karen Lance, I just want to express my gratitude. I was very fortunate to take the mindfulness and law class, and everything I have learned there has been very useful in these very difficult moments. Thanks, Karen. Martis Singerman writes, thank you so much to both of you. This has been a tremendous service. Where can we learn more about the So Be Mindful method?
All right, you can go to sobemindful.com where there's some videos up. We'll be sure to put up, because it is a very versatile practice. You know, what you all probably realize is that we begin practices all the time by sitting in a posture that's upright and stable, lowering or closing our eyes, attending to the sensations of the breath. If you notice your mind wandering, return. There's the tree, there's the wind, and there's the clouds. And this is sort of a deeper way of embracing it. So we will put up on the website as well. And I think everyone will get a link who's been a registrant to the web page that has the videos, etc. And I'll be sure to put up some extra items and readings and videos on the So Be Mindful method. Thank you for asking. We're sharing that also with children very, very young, because it can be very accessible for the age span.
And Pam Rogers asked for your email address, Scott. So Pam, it is srogers@law.miami.edu. Thank you, everyone, very much for joining us. I suspect that we will be back with another offering of some kind. Scott, thank you for a wonderful job today and every day. And we wish everyone peace and mindfulness and wellness in these weeks and months to come, and health and safety. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Dean Verona. Thank you all. It's been nice being together.